Another episode of S&M Radio. I am Shanon.
And I am Mark.
Just a few things before we even jump into this real quick. I wanted to make a couple of announcements of some stuff that's going on with the show, kind of behind the scenes, some stuff you've probably noticed up front. First and foremost,
we have an interview with John Carpenter scheduled for next week, right?
No, that's not it at all.
Damn it.
If anybody, the last episode, noticed that if you use a app of some sort, or maybe Google Play to listen to the show, and then all of a sudden the show was gone, or there wasn't any new updates on the show, I somehow came across this the other day. I don't remember what I was doing, but instead of it being S&M Radio like it used to be, which isn't how I wanted it to be in the first place, but there was another podcast on the host that we use, which is Podbean, called S&M Radio. So I couldn't use that, but I've always had the nickname of the show, or whatever you want to call it, on there, S&M Radio. Well, then all of a sudden I noticed the other day that this last episode had really low numbers. And then when I started digging, I was like, oh crap, it's not on any of the outlets. I can't find it on Google Play. I can't find it on here. I can't find it on there. And then I noticed on the page itself that instead of loading as S&M Radio, it was loading as SNM Space Radio. So just an update on that. So you guys, if you are looking for it and you can't find it, you're probably not hearing this. Sorry. But so in the future, search for S&M Radio instead of S&M Radio. And it's separate. It's S&M and then radio. So there is that. I have resubmitted to iTunes as well, even though I hate Apple and iTunes and all that crap. But hopefully it will get out into iTunes, and that'll probably give us a little bit more traffic. And then finally, the other thing which you've probably already noticed is, because we went from the intro right to the two of us idiots talking, is that there's no more music on the show. I took it out. So there's no longer going to be two songs at the beginning and then a song at the end. And that's mainly just to give the two of us a little bit more time to yammer on. So having 3 songs per episode, that takes up like 12 to 15 minutes, sometimes maybe even a little bit longer. I always like to keep the shows like half an hour to 45 minutes long. And so I wanted to give us a little bit more chance to yak about some of that stuff.
Speaking of music, can I go off on a sidebar real quick?
Sure.
Did you happen to catch that this past, Guns N' Roses are back on tour right now, like with almost all of the original members? You got Slash, Axl, and Duff. Well, did you see the Cincinnati show that just happened this past week? Steven Adler joined them.
Oh, really?
Drums. Yeah, it was pretty cool. He did Out to Get Me and My Michelle. It actually, that was the closest to GNR I've seen GNR since 1989 or 87 or something. It was actually really cool. You should YouTube that if you're a GNR fan. Steven Adler he tore it up on drums, and
so
it sounded good.
Was it like when the dude from Def Leppard lost his arm and they were like, we need to bring a backup drummer in here just in case, because there's no way that dude can drum?
Well, yeah, Steven Adler lost his half of his face, basically, because he's half his face is paralyzed from doing an 8-ball. So he's kind of, but he tore it up on drums. He sounded great. Sounded just like old school Guns N' Roses. So I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, so it was kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, I was really, really on the cusp of, if I would have had the extra money, I would have bought tickets to go see them in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend, because there was, I think it was one of the radio stations, or maybe it was a bar, but the radio station was talking about it or advertising it, out of Madison here in Wisconsin, that had party bus tickets, and it wasn't bad for what you got. It was a ticket to the concert, of course, and then you left from someplace like in Madison, a bar, I'm assuming, and then it was like a party bus on the way there, and then I would assume it was a party bus on the way back too, but most people probably pass out on the way back. But it was like $150 or $175. I mean, that's per person, but that's not that much more than you're getting or you're paying for the ticket anyway. And then plus, if you think you're partying on the way there and you have a free ride, you don't have to pay for parking or anything else. It wasn't horrible, but I just couldn't come up with the extra $300 to go do that, you know?
Yeah, had the show not fallen on my wife's birthday, I would have pushed a lot harder to go see it. My wife can't stand that type of music, so she wouldn't have wanted to go. But yeah, I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, so yeah, Slash is tearing it up, by the way. I mean, and surprisingly, Axl sounds like Axl sounded like 30 years ago, which I'm not fully understanding why he sounds so good.
Yeah, even with watching the AC/DC videos from earlier this year with him, even though he was sitting in that throne most of the time, he did a pretty good job. It made me want to go see AC/DC too. I was like, damn, because I've never seen AC/DC, so I always wanted to, but
he's running around these last few shows with Guns N' Roses in these stadiums that they're playing. He's running around, and it's. I mean, he looks older. They all do basically, but. So now all they need to get is Izzy back on rhythm guitar, and it's the original Appetite for Destruction lineup. If that happens, man, I think I'm going to just have to shell out, pull the credit card out and go to town, because the reality that those guys are still alive is like insane. So I mean, we got to go see them. I had to get my GNR excitement out of the way. I've been watching YouTube videos on all the Guns N' Roses shows lately, and it's like. My neighbor actually went and saw the Chicago show, and I'm like, damn it, I gotta see them, because I've seen, like, my other favorite band was Motley Crue, and I've seen them, and they're done, and they're over with, and now Guns N' Roses is, like, huge to me. I mean, Slash is probably one of my favorite guitar players. And
yeah, so let me tell a little story to the audience here. Earlier today, I was kicked back and was getting all ready to do some final preparation for the show. The movie that I had suggested that we cover, I have already seen 3-4 times, and I absolutely love the movie. So I pulled out my DVD of the movie, and I snapped a picture, and I texted it to Mark, and I said, some afternoon viewing before the show. And Mark goes, dude, that's not the movie I watched.
Actually, it's funny that you sent that to me, because I thought you were like just on a roll for final movies with the word "final girls" in it. So I'm like, oh, he found another one. Oh. And I'm like, for a second, oh wait, no, that was the movie we were supposed to watch.
Yeah, so the movie we were supposed to watch is The Final Girls from last year, 2015. Instead, the movie that Mark had watched, which I ended up watching earlier today, is called Final Girl, which is also from 2015. I'm not sure where to start with this one, because I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
So I'll give the synopsis of the story real quick for everybody out there. It's one of these movies that I'm not even sure if I would myself classify it as a horror movie if somebody gave it to me and didn't tell me anything about it. I hadn't read anything about it. Would they would say, hey, watch this, and then tell me what you would classify it as. I would classify it more as a thriller than a horror movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
But the story is pretty simple. Basically, what it is there is a girl who is trained to be a assassin, and I'm using that from the movie description itself. I wouldn't myself classify her as an assassin. But anyway, there's this girl that's trained to be assassin, and she is put in this scenario where there are this group of guys trying to kill her. As you can gather from the title, it's called Final Girl. So she prevails as the final girl, even though she's the only one in there, but I know why they call it the Final Girl, or Final Girl.
Did you ever see the Dead Poets Society?
Oh, man, years ago.
Well, it reminded me of, like, okay, a group of these sort of hoity-toity, kind of uppity wealthy Republican type. What do you call it? Just like wealthy guys. Nothing to do. They're bored with school. They're bored with life. So they decide, hey, you know what? Let's go and find a girl and like the hottest chick in town, and let's hunt her down and kill her. So they get this new girl that, like, the one that you were talking about. She's going to be the one who kind of avenges the death of all the other girls. And it kind of had like a, like, it's sort of like a revenge movie in a way. Wouldn't you say?
I would. The thing that I gathered from it wasn't that they were hunting the prettiest girl they could find. It was the blonde they could find.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was...
Was it always a blonde that they were looking for?
It was always a blonde, and I think they even made a comment about it when, like, some blonde walked in to the diner that they were at, and somebody had said, "Oh, there's another blonde."
Okay.
The movie had, to me, it had a couple of different feels to it. The beginning part of the movie, and the way that the movie starts is there's this really young girl, Veronica, who's the main character, who's actually played by Abigail Breslin. And for some of you folks, you might recognize her from Zombieland. She was also the little girl in Signs.
Oh, was she?
And she was also the girl from Little Miss Sunshine. If you guys,
we got to do Signs sometime. Oh, so this is the girl from Signs?
Yeah. Yep.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, she's not a little kid anymore. That. She's like 20, 21 years old now.
Wow.
So she's all grown up. But anyway, the movie starts off with her being a little kid. She meets this man, and her parents had just died, and he gives her this test, like a memory test, and she passes it or whatever. And then he's like, "How about I give you a job that only special people can do?" And then she asks, like, "Whoa, what is it?" And he goes, "Oh, well, my wife and kids were killed by bad people." And then she's like, "Okay." So it was kind of odd, but the beginning of the movie kind of reminded me of, if you ever seen the Natalie Portman movie from 20 years ago, The Professional, kind of like that type of feel to it.
Okay.
Where you have this older man taking this young kid in to train her to be an assassin or a killer. But then it jumps to like 12 years later. They're doing these like exercises where he's like training her. And this is where it kind of lost me a little bit, because they had one scene where they're like on this stony beach, and he tells her, "Okay, you got to walk barefoot." And she's like, "Okay." And then they jump to another scene, and they're like kind of boxing, but you could, the stunt coordinator must have been horrible, because they're like throwing like these real soft fake punches and like dodging really bad. And then they jump to the next scene, and he's like, "Okay, now choke me." And so she chokes him, but she doesn't choke him till he's dead or anything. And then he's like, "All right, cool, you're ready." And then she's sent off to find these kids in this diner. Like, he knew where they were at, but that was the thing too, was you always had it in the back of your head, like, okay, he's training her that she's going to go and kill the people that killed his wife and kid. But then it gets to the part where she goes to this diner and she meets these guys who are hunting these girls. Well, they're like 15 years old, I mean, well, they're more like probably 20. Well, those aren't the people that killed your family.
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with this movie, to be honest with you. I did not like the whole training idea, like, oh, you're gonna train this girl to be like an assassin, and one thing, like the whole, like you said, that whole scene on the beach where she takes the gun and she's like, "Just give me a gun. Why don't I just have a gun and I'll just go shoot these people?" And then he's like, he throws her a gun, and then like turns out it's unloaded, and then he's like, "Well, if it's not loaded, then it's just a paperweight," or whatever he said. And it's like, okay, well, all right, so make sure it's loaded. And just, I didn't get the whole like kung fu aspect of this. Like, for one, she's like this petite blonde, and she's gonna go take on all these guys. And I know that, like, you know, she drugs them, and there's like, so that gives her like sort of a little bit of the upper hand. But the idea that she's gonna go in there and like Matrix style go and like beat these guys up was kind of ridiculous. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it didn't work. It didn't work for me.
Yeah,
she could have gone in there with a weapon if she wanted to go avenge the death of these girls. You know, that would have made sense to go in there with a knife or a gun or something and just, you know, hunt them down. But to like go in there for like, you know, kung fu battles, I was like, come on.
They never explained, or maybe I missed it, why she targeted those people if the guy that was training her knew that those guys were bad. And if that was the case, then, I don't know, call the cops.
Yeah.
I mean, that part of it was weird. Then the other thing which you alluded to, which was also that threw me way off, was she ends up in the car with these guys, and then she somehow drugged their flask of booze that they were passing around. I didn't get that, because there was all these weird scenes where they were like doing these like flash like backs or forwards or whatever type things with some of it, and it wasn't explained. And like I said, you had said she drugs them. How did you get that in the thing? I don't, because her hands were tied up, and some of it just didn't make any sense. And then, but once it got to where the action finally started, because the movie wasn't very long, it was only, I think, 80 minutes long or something.
Thank God.
You have this group of guys who are out in the woods with this single, like you said, petite girl. How they even got her out to the woods is beyond me, because the one thing, if you remember when she first met the leader of this group, who I don't even know if he had a name, in the diner, the guy was kind of a total dick to her. Just walks up and like starts drinking her shake, and then he's like,
"Yeah,
meet me back here in 2 days with a red dress and red lipstick." And then she's like, "Okay," which, I mean, I know she was going to do it anyway, but how does that work on anybody? Maybe we're old and we don't get kids in these days. I don't know. But then, you know, then you're out in the. Well, then you jump forward to a few days later, and she meets him back at this diner, and then they go outside, and it's him and his 3 buddies. Yeah, I'm not going to get in that car. You guys are going to rape me.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I just was like, what is going on? But I was all excited for the, like you had said, you get to the end, and it kind of has this revenge type feel to it. Mm-hmm. And I was so hoping that, you know, this was made in 2015. We've had at this point 3 new I Spit on Your Grave movies and a bunch of other revenge movies that, this is going to be good. This is going to be so good. And nothing. You
know, it's so funny you bring up I Spit on Your Grave. Actually, let me just preface this by saying I cannot stand that movie, the original movie. That movie, it's affected me in a way that like no horror movie ever affected me. Like, I just didn't like watching the girl get raped for like 30 minutes or whatever. It just was like, oh my gosh, this is just too much for me. But this movie reminded me of that in the sense, and there was no rape or anything, but like it would just remind the whole like setup, like, okay, she's gonna go and get revenge. The revenge sucked. Yeah, they were drugged, but then like the whole karate aspect was so stupid. Like the whole notion that like the guy said to her, like, if you had a gun, if once you're out of bullets, then you'd be screwed. And it was like, well, what do you do if you're kicking and punching people, and then what if you run out of energy? You know, it made no sense. So it's like, she should have had a gun, and that would have been it.
Of course, it would have been a shorter movie.
It would have been a shorter movie. Yeah, I just was like, man, this movie sucked. Just like the whole thing. You know, I mean, the acting was good, and you know, I think they filmed it well, but like the whole concept and the storyline, I think they had an idea of what they wanted to do. Like, they wanted to do kind of like a let's get revenge to these kids who are evil and are like going out and torturing and killing women, and and that's all great and all, but like the payoff wasn't there because it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it was not good at all.
No, and this movie, by the way, every time if you have Netflix and you just like click on Netflix, this movie pops up instantly. Like it's like always there. It's like the most promoted movie ever. That's why that's the reason I watched it, and thinking that it was what we were supposed to watch, because it was like, wow, that must be it, because it's always here. So
yeah, after I just let him come back after he was off for like 2 weeks, and then he goes and screws up like this.
I know. I got written up for this one, didn't I?
Yeah, your final warning, man, I'm telling you. So, you folks out there, if your name starts with M and you're a horror fan, please send your resumes.
No.
The couple of things that I wanted to make note about the movie. The first thing, though, with this movie is this movie did have a scene in it that did make me, for the most part, gag and cringe. And I don't know if you remember this or not, if you even caught it. The moment when they first get to the woods and they're playing that like truth or dare type game, and the one guy's like, I'll take the dare, and nobody dared him to do anything, and he just pulled this giant earthworm up and slurped it up like a spaghetti, and it smacked against his chin, and he had this like dirt stuff on his chin.
Yeah.
That part was bad enough, but then he's like chewing on it for like a minute. You're like, oh yeah. God, stop.
I remember that part. That didn't bother me too much, to be honest with you.
I don't know what's wrong with you.
That gotcha, huh?
You must have something in your head that's just like, oh yeah, that's cool.
So let me ask you this: the scene in the Lost Boys, when they're in the hideout and like they're eating the Chinese food.
No, the maggots did not bug me at all.
That didn't bug you? Okay.
Not like, right. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was so much when he first like put it and swallowed it. I was like, oh okay, but then when he was like chewing on it, that's when I was like, oh gross.
All right. Yeah, I don't think there was anything in this movie that like totally grossed me out.
Well, that's the only gore that was in the movie. I mean,
you're right. Yeah, there were, and then yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because the one kill, which even kind of almost irritated me, really, she had the one guy knocked down on the ground, and she picked this giant rock up, and she goes to smash his head in, and they film her back, and you don't see anything. I'm like, come on!
Yeah. The thing that bothered me the most about this movie was making her like a kung fu fighting character. I didn't like that at all. I thought that was just stupid, in my opinion.
Well, it would have been okay if they would have maybe explained it, because that was one of the things, like I said earlier, that they showed him boxing a little bit, and then she put the guy in a chokehold, and then he's like, "You're ready." Wait, what? She's still like this innocent little girl. She couldn't even fight you off. You're going to send her and have her go against this group of guys?
Right. And also another question I have is why in the end did she break her nose on purpose? I didn't understand that. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, if something maybe got cut out, I don't know.
All right. Like she breaks her nose prior to going up against the last final character, like the main bad dude or whatever. Oh, and another question I have for you, since we're like questioning things. So, where the one guy is confronted with his girlfriend in the woods, and she's like, "Why are you here? And what do you guys do here?" And then like the main guy comes and like, "Come on, tell her. You got to tell her what we're doing," and that whole thing. So that girl really wasn't in the woods. It was always the blonde girl, right?
Yeah, that was the other. Yeah, that was the thing with that whole final hallucination battle with everybody at the end.
Yeah.
was it didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, that girl wasn't there.
She wasn't there. Okay.
I don't think she was there.
The girlfriend of the guy was never really there. It was always the blonde girl, just sort of it was a hallucination then.
Yeah, that's what I gathered from. But again, nothing was really explained.
Okay.
Man,
yeah,
we are giving everything away to this movie. Sorry, folks, if you're like, oh, I was going to see that.
Well,
don't waste your time. Yeah.
Don't waste your... Watch the other movie that we were supposed to watch. Apparently, it was a lot better, so
it's so
hopefully
good.
We'll get to that next time.
Yeah, I didn't understand the whole point of having to drug them at the end to get their... And that was the thing, too. It wasn't just drugging them. It made them hallucinate, and it was like this cross between it and The Dark Knight. So
yes,
everybody was experiencing their worst fears.
Yes.
And their worst fears were completely lame, except for the very first guy who was evidently afraid of guys dressed up in panda suits.
You are so right. I forgot about it. This is like Batman Begins with the Scarecrow and all that. You were dead on. That was exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
They were all,
yeah.
Exactly. And it even was kind of filmed in that way, too.
Yeah, and it was, to me, it kind of felt like a ripoff. And it wasn't really even explained at first what was happening. I mean,
right.
Until, a couple minutes later, and she's like, I drugged you guys.
Right.
Oh, that's what happened.
Exactly.
It wasn't very good at all, unfortunately, so...
No, it was not.
But, we got to get those ones out of the way, I guess.
We do.
At the rate we're going, we're going to get all of the bad movies out of the way by the end of the year.
We'll clean out next Netflix for you for sure.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's so hit or miss sometimes on Netflix. And like you had said, the movie itself seems to be filmed very well. It had, I wouldn't say huge name actors, but lead girl Abigail is somewhat recognizable to some people.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that was the lead guy of the group, I don't know what his name is, but that guy, Alexander Ludwig, he's been in a couple of movies. He was in, like, The Seeker, and then he was the little kid from Race to Witch Mountain, and then he was also in The Hunger Games. But then the guy that played that trainer, I don't know what his name is, but he's from, like, American Beauty, but then he was also, like, in The Hunger Games, too, which is probably a lot of people would recognize him from. And then also Interstellar from a couple of years ago, which was, like, a pretty big movie. So,
yeah.
So there are some recognizable people in the movie, but the story was really lacking, and I don't know if it's one of these things that we've talked about on this show multiple times, and you hear about it in other places where you have an idea and you film this idea, and then the studio steps in, which I can't imagine this one really had a big studio behind it, but they, take this out or add this or put this in, or you just have certain things that are filmed that have certain aspects to the story in them, and when everything's all said and done, it just doesn't feel right or just doesn't look right, so you cut it out, and then it ends up taking part of the story away. But yeah, the one thing I noticed throughout the movie that goes along lines with the filming of the movie is, why was there so much lighting in the woods? And it wasn't just that the woods were so lit up, but when they were doing those, like, pan shots, you could see that there was these, like, giant spotlights shining into the woods. It was weird.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that was, like, ridiculous.
That's pretty much all I can really say to the movie. There was a bunch of other really weird stuff in the movie. You had that weird feel towards the end of the movie where the Veronica character was in love with the guy that trained her, which was obviously much older than she was. Remember, they had that one scene where they were all cuddled up on the bed, and then she was leaving to go to battle or whatever you want to call it, and she wrote "I love you" on the lips, on the mirror and lipstick.
Very strange movie. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to give it a big thumbs down.
We should
Sorry.
find we'll have to find like a toilet flush sound bite or something, and every time we're like, oh, this movie stinks, and whoosh.
No good. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Big thumbs down for sure. So,
Final Girl, we say it sucks, so maybe the final girls will actually like. So I guess we'll have to find out.